Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Tonight on Our News, students caught on camera in an all-out brawl. Education Minister hopes all students will return for face-to-face learning by fall. A Russian national's perspective on the invasion of Ukraine, and the historic and once beautiful International Bazaar to be taken down. Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, an all-out brawl between a group of junior high school students has prompted Education Minister Glenys Hanna-Martin to speak out. Hanna-Martin condemned the fight, insisting the MOE is working on strategies to address violence at public schools. Jasmine Brown reports.
The Education Minister did not hold back as she insisted her ministry and officials will not tolerate bullying within schools.
We have to ensure that there is a no tolerance level for violence on school campuses. That's the first principle. Secondly, we have to see how we can cause for our young people to be able to resolve whatever their issues are without resorting to that type of conduct.
Hanna-Martin spoke to the issue on the sidelines of the Ministry of Education's second curriculum launch. She spoke to the video that showed a young girl dressed in an AF Adderley Junior High School uniform being surrounded and beaten by several other female students, as dozens of other students looked on screaming and cheering. Hanna-Martin says while it's still unclear what led to the beatdown, she believes it may have been a result of bullying.
Bullying in this day and age has serious consequences. If your hair looks a certain way, if you're a little heavy on, it doesn't matter. Every child has the right to be and to be on that campus, to be and to be on that campus. And we will seek to foster respect for every person, regardless of any issue that differentiates one from another.
The Education Minister says there has been an intervention in that particular case, but adds that the ministry is also looking at broader strategies. When asked to address the issue of corporal punishment in school, Hanna-Martin said this.
I'm speaking personally now. I don't see where using violence on children is going to help any circumstance or situation. I'm not an advocate of that. I think we have to help our children to grow up healthy, respectful, strong, courageous. I don't advocate violence in any shape or form. I'm not against young people. I support discipline and even punishment in terms of that component of discipline. But I do not personally support the use of violence against young people to coerce conduct or behavior.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Meanwhile, a drop in COVID-19 cases could mean all schools across the country will resume full face-to-face learning before the start of the next academic year. At least that's what Education, Technical and Vocational Training Minister Glenys Hanna-Martin is hoping.
I hope so. I hope before that. But we're waiting to see when the green light comes. But we are anxiously waiting to get every child in the classroom on a full-time basis. That is our goal and our objective. We are guided by the Ministry of Health protocols, and we do have some challenges with teacher allocation. We're working on the teacher allocation, and once the Ministry of Health gives the green light, we will move towards, children will go in full face-to-face immediately.
In late January, schools across the Bahamas resumed hybrid learning. Hanna-Martin says one of the issues is spacing at public schools, many of which cannot accommodate social distancing.
If you want to obey the protocols, you can't have everyone in the classroom at one time. So as long as those protocols are in place, they will continue to place a challenge. But we are ready. The country is ready. The children are ready. And so as soon as the Ministry of Health says go for it, we're going for it. We get the children in the classroom.
After a resort lobbied for government to remove the mask mandate for its fully vaccinated guests, Acting Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism Chester Cooper says the government is weighing the possibility and a final recommendation will be before Cabinet in the next week. Bethany McDermott reports.
Following a call by a top hotel exec to remove the mask mandate for vaccinated visitors, Acting Prime Minister Chester Cooper said it's being looked into. Speaking to a recent Bahamas Hotel and Tourism Association annual general meeting, Bahama President Graham Davis said the resort has seen some pushback from U.S. guests.
We're still seeing pushback of guests from our major markets in the United States on the mask mandates, particularly for vaccinated guests. as we now are experiencing over 90% of our guests are fully vaccinated. That mask mandate removal for hotel guests that are vaccinated would be a tremendous step forward.
Meanwhile, Cooper said a recommendation in this regard is expected next week.
There is a lobby to remove the wearing of masks. It's something that my colleagues from the Ministry of Health and Wellness are looking into. They are looking at the science and the recommendations of the CDC and the WHO, etc. And they will be making a recommendation next week to Cabinet.
Cooper added the decision lies solely in the hands of the health professionals. His comments come one day after he announced government will end the 5-day COVID-19 test requirement for visitors entering the country. Cooper reiterated the desire to strike the right balance, adding that the Davis administration is focused on relaxing restrictions. Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell, who was in Belize attending the 33rd CARICOM Heads of Government meeting, revealed that Caribbean leaders are being urged to scrap travel restrictions completely. Mitchell said he is unsure which way the decision will go, but noted that Jamaica has already scrapped all of its travel restrictions except a requirement for a test 72 hours before travel. The tourism minister acknowledged the exhaustion with mask wearing and acknowledged that the pandemic isn't over.
The pandemic is not over. We have rebounded well in tourism. We do not want to do anything that impact this rebound. The reality of it is, if we are able to contain case numbers, our CDC levels will improve, and therefore we will enhance the quality of life and the progress in tourism that we're trying to get.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
In other news, Free National Movement leader Michael Pintard accusing the Davis administration of canceling Bahamas Power and Light's hedging program initiated under the Minnis administration. His comments came after BPL released a statement Monday announcing fuel charges will increase from 10.5 cents per kilowatt hour to 13.7 cents per kWh. That statement was later retracted. In November 2021, Sears indicated the government would need to negotiate a new fuel hedging deal if Bahamians want to continue to enjoy lower electricity bills. Pintard says he wants to know what the government's plans are.
How are you going to spare the public, really which will amount to the tens of millions of dollars, and spare the government the tens of millions of dollars of additional costs now that you have canceled the hedging program? We heard the Prime Minister's comments about wanting to find a way to do that. We are very much interested in what that way is.
And 3 children among 177 Haitian migrants who were apprehended and brought to Nassau Wednesday, according to Defense Force Commodore Raymond King. King says it was a joint effort between the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, the Cuban Border Patrol, the U.S. Coast Guard, and a local fishing vessel who provided intelligence. He says the vessel was being monitored for a few days as it traveled along the Old Bahama Channel. The RBDF chief says it's uncommon to see this much movement during this time of year, but it seems Haitian nationals are looking beyond the Bahamas.
The migrant movements appear to be moving towards the state of Florida. And so we are collaborating with our partners, the United States government, the Cuban Border Patrol, and we are monitoring the migrant movements. Rest assured that we are guarding our heritage and we're protecting our borders.
Some of us woke up to rain showers and rainbows this morning. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center with the latest. Good evening, Greg.
Thanks, Christina. Our first look at weather tonight is being brought to you by Ports International, trusted medical supplies for a better quality of life. Nice conditions outside our studio. Some showers lurking out in the distance, so we're keeping a few showers in the icon there. 74 degrees is our current temperature with some passing clouds. Your winds out of the east-northeast at 9 miles per hour, and your temperature stands at, feels like temperature actually, stands at 70 degrees. Satellite view, pockets of moisture moving across the islands in that easterly flow, generating a couple isolated showers. We had 1 or 2 of those here in the capital early this morning. Some more showers down near the southeast Bahamas. That's all associated with a weakening frontal boundary that's basically going to pull out towards the east and away from us. Nice conditions expected tonight, so get out and enjoy. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is
ahead on our news, a Russian national's perspective on the invasion of Ukraine. The world-famous International Bazaar comes down, plus a man who lost his arm gets more than the doctor ordered. Stay with us.
got size at 6'5". Hi, this is Shamika.
CARICOM members issuing a strong statement Wednesday in support of the United Nations Charter to protect and preserve a country's territorial integrity and sovereignty. During CARICOM talks yesterday, the question was raised whether or not sanctions against Russia would be imposed by member states. CARICOM members arrived at a general consensus to wait until the UN Security Council passes a resolution to confirm that member states ought to impose sanctions. CARICOM members will abide by the outcome of such a resolution. Meanwhile, reports on Russia's invasion of Ukraine have largely focused on Russia's aggression and the casualties on the Ukrainian people. Tonight, our Jerome Sawyer speaks with someone from that region who shares a perspective not often heard on this side of the world.
There's always something you don't know, and I think we could all agree that every war starts with lies and deception.
Grand Bahama resident Ina Simmons has lived here for 25 years. Born in Lithuania under the communist rule of the former Soviet Union, she is of Russian heritage and speaks the language fluently, which allows her to literally hear both sides of the conflict.
My mom is Russian. As I say, I'm from Lithuania, and that's probably who opened my eyes to look at two sides.
While the Western media has shown mainly Russian aggression against the Ukrainians, Simmons says Russian media reports claim genocide against Russians and tells stories of extremists inside the Ukraine. Whether substantiated or not, it's a side of the story we have not heard on this side of the world.
There are two forces in Ukraine, and they are extremist nationalists and neo-Nazis, and that Putin thinks it's way too close for comfort if NATO now comes to the border of Ukraine.
It's the opposition to NATO's expansion and claims of neo-Nazi forces in Ukraine, which on the surface are being used by Russian President Vladimir Putin to stage these attacks. What's worse, Simmons does not see the Russians backing down anytime soon. She cites the 8-year conflict in the Donbass region as fueling Russian aggression.
I don't see Russians backing down. Russia right now feels like, from the information I gather listening to news in Russian from different stations, it's like a bear that's been poked for 8 years.
This weekend, the Kremlin-based Russian Today network was banned in Europe and Canada on claims it was toxic, giving harmful disinformation.
Is that freedom of speech? Yeah. This is where it's heading. It's just not good, is my opinion, honestly.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jerome Sawyer.
Shifting gears now, a Grand Bahama landmark is on its way down. Well, part of it at least. Our Megan Shepard tells us more.
It was synonymous with the island of Grand Bahama for decades. The International Bazaar was once a beautiful, thriving, and iconic hub for nightlife, shopping, dining, and more. But after continuous blows by major hurricanes, the bazaar began to deteriorate. In late 2021, the bazaar was dealt its final blow after several fires ripped through parts of the shopping center. Vice President of Building and Development Services at the Grand Bahama Port Authority, Nikira Wilshcombe.
We would have then contacted the building owners for those buildings that were damaged, and it required them to do some immediate demolition to those buildings. I'm pleased to say that that process started last week.
While Grand Bahamians have been agitating for the renovation or demolition of the eyesore for years now, Wilshcombe says a process must be followed.
We know that it's been an eyesore for a long time. One of the things I have to remind the public is that our assessments firstly have to determine that these buildings are structurally unsound, and that has to be done so independently.
Wilshcombe is appealing to other owners whose buildings were not affected by the fires to sit down with the Port Authority and formulate a plan of action going forward. She says residents can expect more demolition, but as to how soon, well, she says there are 3 factors in play.
Legislation, building owners granting us the opportunity to demolish their buildings or them taking it on themselves.
Discussions have been ongoing about what could replace the iconic buildings.
I'm sure that once all of the buildings are down, persons will want to submit plans and visions for, what could become of that once International Bazaar. And obviously, it's a feature that's been a long time with us. And so we would want something equally as prominent and nice to go there in replacement of what structures are there now.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
When Our News comes back from the break, a dream comes true for a 37-year-old amputee, and Marcellus Hall has the latest on Bahamians in the NBA. The details when Our News returns.
Got size at 6'5". Hi, this is Shamika.
This is Our News. Welcome back. When a 37-year-old father of one was fitted with his bionic arm 18 months after losing his hand, he says it was like a dream come true. Jared Higgs sat down with him and tells us the man wants to be an inspiration to people with and without disabilities.
37-year-old Stephen Cox was quick to accept his fate after his hand was crushed in a cement mixing machine back on Halloween 2019.
The device shifts and my hand is crushed.
Doctors tried to save his hand, but the damage was too severe. After a few surgeries, his right hand was eventually fully amputated.
On the way to the hospital, I kind of had a talk with God, and I was basically at peace from that conversation.
Despite his condition, Cox was determined to live his best life. Prior to having surgery, the father of one snuck his phone into the hospital and started researching solutions. He knew he didn't want a wooden arm or a hook, setting his sights on something more advanced.
When I found the bionic arm, I got excited and I said, this is it. This is what I want.
With the help of doctors and NIB, Cox was on his way to the U.S. to meet with specialists. He documented his journey on his TikTok page. Eventually, he was fitted with a Black Panther-themed bionic arm. A sticker, or a tattoo, on the prosthetic reads, "Ugly," which Cox says is short for, "You gotta love yourself."
Having that confidence again and being able to reach with my right hand and pick up something and reach with my right hand and move a chair or something like that. Yeah, it was a great feeling.
Cox dubbed himself Bionic Man and called the rehab before he got his prosthetic X-Men training. He demonstrates how to use his bionic arm too, flexing his muscles in different ways to bring about different movements. It's a relief for his body too. The neurological messages still being sent to his hand, despite it being gone, now have something to latch on to. He also gives a firm handshake, but promises he won't crush your hand. Cox works as a brand ambassador for a juice brand and has been active in the disabled community. He wants to start an advocacy group for persons with limb differences and has this advice for anybody who may be dealing with a loss of limb.
Do what I did in a sense and talk to God. Try to find your peace and what's happening and what's going on. It's not a movie, it's real life.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Thanks, Jared. Well, Buddy Hield and DeAndre Ayton both leading their teams to victory. Marcellus Hall has the scoop tonight in sports.
All right, thanks, Christina. Welcome to our sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. Sometimes a change of scenery is exactly what you need in order to get things going. That's been the case for Buddy Hield, as he has now had a change of scenery, moving from Sacramento to Indiana. Since the trade, he's been playing very well. Last night, it added up to a win. Let's take a look. Buddy Hield, Indiana Pacers in action last night. They were on the road playing the Orlando Magic once again. Different result this time around as Indiana able to get the victory here. 122 to 114 ends up being the final score. Checking in on Buddy. Another solid performance here for the Bahamian, as he finished up with 44 minutes on the floor, 17 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals, getting it done all across the board. Pacers, they are now looking pretty good. They win this one actually in overtime, double overtime if you want to be specific, and they now get set to continue their road trip. Their next game is going to be in Detroit when they play the Indiana Pacers. That game comes your way tomorrow. How about DeAndre Ayton? He and the Phoenix Suns, they were in action last night as well. Still without the services of point guard Chris Paul, and needing a win. They had lost a couple in a row, but that didn't happen last night. Playing the Trailblazers in Phoenix, and Phoenix gets the win here, 120-90 on their home floor. They blew out the Blazers. Booker also missing in this one, but they still get the win nonetheless. Phoenix does. DeAndre Ayton, 18 points in 25 minutes on the floor, 8 rebounds, 1 assist, a steal in the contest. Phoenix now still sitting atop first place in the Western Conference. They're 50-12 on the year, looking pretty good. Their next game comes your way as well on Friday when they take on the New York Knicks. And that is your look at sports here on this Thursday. Don't forget to check out the Locker Room tomorrow evening at 6:30. As always, hope you enjoy that show. Meanwhile, I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Christina.
Thanks, Marcellus. When our news returns, Greg is back in the Weather Center. Stay with us.
Got size at 6'5". Hi, this is Shamik.
Welcome back to our news. Some windy conditions may be ahead. Greg is back in the Weather Center with our extended forecast.
Thanks again, Christina, and welcome back, everybody, for our second look at weather. That ridge of high pressure system across us, dominating our weather, keeping us in an easterly flow, bringing in some low-level moisture across the islands. A couple of showers here in the capital early this morning. We're looking for a few more of those showers overnight through tomorrow. Frontal boundary now down near the southeast Bahamas, starting to weaken further. It's continuing to pull out towards the east, but some low-level moisture down that area, also producing some cloudiness as well as some showers. High pressure will strengthen over the next couple of days. Our boating forecast and our beaching forecast will be going downhill for the weekend, as it is beaching and boating forecast during that period, and that wind flow will continue into early next week, with our winds eventually falling off. Boating forecast for all areas tonight through tomorrow. Your winds will be out of the northeast to east at 50 knots, but they will be increasing 15 to 20 knots tomorrow. Sea is building 4 to 6 feet. Your high tide will be at 8:33 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through next Thursday. That's a look at our weather. Have a beautiful evening, everybody. Christina?
Thanks, Greg, and thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Christina Dragovich. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Stay tuned for a brand new episode of On the Record with Jerome Sawyer, which starts right now.